when your opponent does play a Chalice for 1, which does happen very often on turn 1 from the Mud deck, you're able to play Cavern of Souls, Naming Goblin, and be able to push a Lackey through it because it cannot be countered. That's also just something to keep track of here. If you do see Chalice of the Void come into play at all.
And Cleveland does have 2 copies of Chalice of the Void in the sideboard, which he could consider bringing in.
A little bit surprised not to see that in the main deck. You normally see a lot of those in the main deck because it is so good against your Rug deck, and a lot of decks do have 1 casting cost spells in Legacy, where the Mud deck typically does not. But I think we see a Sensei's Divine Top and a Voltic Key.
Well, when we were playing Tinker in Extended a while back, we had 4 copies of Chalice of the Void, and we always brought it in against Jund deck, any deck with like Cabal Therapies or Thoughtseize, because with City Traders Ancient Tomb, being able to go turn 1 Chalice for 1 can shut down a lot of the cards in a lot of decks. So I'm with you. I think, especially in a format like Legacy, being able to go Chalice for 1 on turn 1 and shutting down cards like Ponder, Brainstorm, Thoughtseize can be very powerful. Not to mention Swords to Plowshare, which can target your Metalworker.
Yeah, there's a lot of annoyances in 1 mana. I mean, Legacy is a format where the interactions do happen very, very early, as you're going to see Cleveland is going to take a mulligan here, and Max does look happy, maybe signifying that he does have some of those 1-drops in Aether Vial and Goblin Lackey. Again, cards that Chalice of the Void on 1 could stop.
Yeah, and Cleveland knows what he's playing against. He knows Max has 4 copies of Incinerator. Maybe he's trying to dig into a mana-heavy hand with some sort of acceleration like Grim Monolith or Mox Opal and some dual lands, or rather double lands, where Max can't really interact with that kind of mana acceleration.
So, I mean, this is a deck that the Mud deck, mulligan's okay. It is looking for a certain combination of cards. I don't think it's a deck that ever wants to take a mulligan down to 5. But you can't afford to take 1 mulligan. But it is, it's funny to call this deck a combo deck, but it is looking for, 2 mana lands, maybe Metalworker hands with a lot of artifacts. So it certainly needs a combination of cards to be able to do its thing ahead of schedule, which Cleveland has been able to do over the course of 9 rounds so far. But can he do it for 3 more?
Yeah, and Cleveland does have 4 copies of Great Furnace and 4 copies of Darksteel Citadel to go along with 2 copies of Mox Opal. So if he draws his artifact lands and he draws the right combination of cards, he can jump the curve again and cast his 3 drops on turn 2, which he can play Metalworker. He could also play Trinisphere, though, which can be a very important card in this matchup if he gets it down early.
Yeah.
Again, Aether Vial sort of gets around that a little bit, along with the turn 1 Goblin Lackey, which is probably what Cleveland's most afraid of.
Yeah. Well, fortunately for him, he is going to be on the play here, so a little bit less fear of a Goblin Lackey on turn 1 for Max, just because he does get to play the first couple turns. But if he was certainly on the draw, I think he would be terrified of that, as he does not have a fantastic way to interact with it early.
Yeah, he basically has no cheap removal in his deck. He does have a Spine of Isha, not very good against Goblin Lackey.
As you are going to see him move down to 5 cards here. Max's deck, it's a very traditional take on goblins. He has all spells and 4 Aether Vials. He doesn't have a card like Warren's Weirding, no Tar Fires, none of that stuff. So, he does have some ways to interact with Cleveland. Again, he does have a Stink Scourge to be able to get something off the board momentarily, 10th Street Hooligan to be able to kill one of the artifacts. He does have a Sharpshooter. Taking a look, I want to see if he does have anything else here. Those Incinerators that you did bring up. So he does have some ways to get things off the board. Also 2 Siege Gang Commanders.
Oh, well, yeah, he does have 1 copy of 10th Street Hooligan. I did not notice that. So, yeah, he has some pretty good, it's a very consistent deck. And like we said, it's one of those fair decks that's good against other fair decks. Cleveland's deck isn't necessarily fair.
Yeah.
It does do some things that sort of break the rules of the game.
Yeah.
But of all the unfair decks that you have to play against, I think Max is probably okay with this matchup.
Yeah, that's exactly how I would look at it. It's an unfair deck, but as far as how it ranks on the scale of unfair decks in the format, it's not the most unfair.
Yeah, you're not losing on turn 1 or 2.
Yeah. So Cleveland is going to take a look at 5 cards here.
And is he going to be okay with his 5-card hand? And it's hard to tell whether or not Cleveland's just mulliganing aggressively because he knows turn 1 Goblin Lackey can be very good start, and I need some sort of way to jump my mana curve, or if he's just getting terrible draws.
Yeah. And so now we're going to see a Faithless Looting off of a Great Furnace here for Cleveland.
So, not exactly what you want to be doing unless you can go follow it up with a Goblin Welder.
Well, there certainly are some cards that I think he's more than happy to discard, as he does discard a Faithless Looting and a Voltic Key. He's looking for a certain number and combination of cards, so, I mean, it's not great on a mulligan of 5, but it's not the worst thing we've ever seen.
So let's see what Max is doing this turn. Are we going to get that turn 1 Aether Vial or turn 1 Lackey? Either turn 1 play is really effective. And here we go, turn 1 Lackey. Let's see if Cleveland can do anything to deal with that.
You see a Goblin Welder is the draw. He's going to play a Cavern of Souls. We'll see what he's going to name. Likely to be Goblin, and it is going to be Goblin. So he is going to put a Welder into play, which can trade here. A trade that I think Max may be happy to make. If he does have a land and a Jump Home Incinerator, he will be able to take care of this, however.
And now I wonder whether or not Cleveland regrets not discarding that Forge Master. As if he did, he'd be able to, if the Welder did survive, he'd be able to get it into play next turn off the Great Furnace.
Okay.
Because it seems unlikely he'll be able to cast it. Although, you know, again, if he does draw a Grim Monolith,
yeah, that thing's online.
That's online. Yeah.
In 2 turns.
Jacob McCarthy.
So let's see what Max does here. Maybe he's afraid of tagging. Does he have a Gem Pump Incinerator to deal with it? It looks like he does.
Yeah, it does look like yeah, it does. So you see Bloodstained Mire. He's going to sacrifice that. We'll see what land he's going to search up. His splash color, again, he does have a Plateau. He also does have a Taiga, so he has a small splash in his deck for the Tin Street Hooligans, for some white cards in his sideboard, and Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. Also 3 mountains in there as well. But he is going to search for the Taiga. Likely, of course, because he does have that 10 Street Hooligan main deck. He does want access to that green mana.
Also doesn't have to fear Wasteland. He knows Cleveland doesn't have any Wastelands in his deck.
So there's your Gem Palm Incinerator. Going to take care of that Goblin Welder. He's going to draw a card.
Wow, it looks like Max also has a Wasteland in his hand.
Sure.
So he's going to be able to put a Goblin into play. It looks like it might be a Ringleader.
Yep. We are going to trigger a Goblin Ringleader. 4 cards going to come off the top for Max. Those 4 are going to be a Mogg War Marshal, a Scalding Tarn, a Wasteland, and a Goblin Lackey. So +2 there, as he's going to put that Wasteland and Scalding Tarn on the bottom. You're going to see Cleveland take a look at the Mogg War Marshal. We'll bring it up on the screen for you guys. One of the newer Goblins, per se, as opposed to the other Goblins that are out there. It does put a 1/1 into play when it comes into play.
Yes, works very well with Skirk Prospector.
Yep.
Gives you effectively 3 Goblins for the price of 1.
And you do see Cleveland just pass the turn back, so I think we're going to see a Wasteland here, among other things here for Tietze.
Yeah, a Wasteland on Great Furnace is pretty good here. Turns off Faith Fluting Flashback potentially. Looks like we also have a Siege Gang Commander.
Not so bad.
Not so bad off of a Goblin Lackey. For 5 mana, maybe too much. For 0 mana, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Quite the bargain.
Yeah, I've hard cast those bad boys in my day. I don't mind.
I don't mind. So a great play sequence would be Wasteland, your Great Furnace, Goblin Pile Driver, attack, put a Siege Gang Commander in play.
Yep.
That would be an ideal sequence. So let's see if Max takes that line.
He's going to start here by attacking in for 3 damage. Lackey Trigger is going to go on the stack. He is going to put into play a Siege Gang Commander. 3 tokens are going to come in as well.
And here we go. So Cleveland takes 3 damage. Siege Gang enters play. And are we going to see a Wasteland?
And are we going to see a Pile Driver? As that should end this game in relatively short order, as you do see Max going to Wasteland the Great Furnace. So he's going to take care of that.
And yeah, Pile Driver would definitely be lethal next turn. So I'd be surprised if Max didn't go for that. Cleveland, again, doesn't have many answers to it. Looks like maybe he just wants to get a Prospector into play, and he could still sacrifice a token and still cast the Pile Driver if he chooses to.
So he does play a Prospector, yep, and he is going to sacrifice a Goblin. And there is your Mogg War Marshal.
And again, he's just getting more Goblins to play. He could still cast, because of the Prospector's ability, he's effectively just, he's netting 1 Goblin off the play.
He sacrifices the Mogg War Marshal, and he sacrifices the token that it makes. So he's going to explain that interaction to Cleveland. Sacrifice that, sacrifice the Goblin, and then put a Pile Driver into play. So he is facing down lethal right now by a lot.
Yeah. Cleveland does draw an Ancient Tomb, but not going to be enough. So
he's going to pick up that lone Cavern of Souls, and he will concede the game. So Max Tietze does win game 1 against Cleveland Rhoades. Playing Mud, we will cut back to the booth here very quickly, as it is time to give away 3 months of trivia very quick. Again, the way to play this game is we are going to ask you guys a question. You guys will hashtag the answer with SCG Premium. Again, it is about accuracy, not speed, and we'll give away 3 months for you. So, the question here, I'm going to go to the Mud deck list, actually.
Okay.
I want to pick a fun one of, as Alex Masterton would call it, a fun of in this deck. There is a 3-mana artifact in Cleveland's deck list that has not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4. I think it's 5 abilities, or is it 6?
Oh, yes. It has, I believe, 5 abilities.
Let's say at least 5.
At least 5 abilities.
At least 5 abilities on it. And if you're able to name that one 3-mana artifact that has at least 5, I think it's 6, I can't remember now because it does so many things. Hashtag your answer to SCG Premium. Again, we will select one of the people who do get it correct, and we will announce who that winner is after these round of matches here in our quarterfinals are over.
Here's a hint. You likely haven't played it in a constructed deck short of a cube deck.
True.
Yeah.
Very, very true. And he does find a little bit of a home here, as it can go bonkers with Metalworker.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll cut back to our match. Take a look at the sideboard here. First one you do look at is Cleveland's. 3 Tormod's Crypts, a couple of Phyrexian Revokers, 2 Witchbane Orbs, 2 Blood Moons, 2 Chalice of Voids and All's Dust, a Karn Liberated, and a Platinum Imperium.
Platinum Imperium, Big Daddy.
Do you know what any of those do?
I know. Yes. I love artifact-based decks.
Okay.
So Platinum Imperium, basically your life total doesn't change, I believe.
Yep.
8 mana, 8/8.
Yeah, big.
Big Daddy. But again, with cards like Metalworker, Grim Monolith, and Voltaic Key, can come into play relatively quickly. Again, Chalice of Void can be good, especially if you're on the play. Not quite sure you can afford to have it on the draw.
Yeah, I don't
because
like
Aether Vial and Lackey already get in under it anyway, and Chalice for 1 is really what you want to be doing. You kind of want to slow the Goblin deck down. So I think it might be worth bringing in because it's one of the few answers he actually has to a turn 1 Goblin Lackey on the play. So I like Chalice of the Void. All's Dust, again, might as well bring that card in. It's a Wrath effect. Not the most efficient Wrath effect at 7 mana, but it is some way you can deal with the Horde of Goblins.
Yep.
Karn Liberated, probably not coming in. You don't really need any more high-costed threats in your deck. You have plenty of ways to win if you can get to that mana, so don't see that coming in. Platinum Imperium, again, you might want to bring it in as one of, because there are times where if you get a Forge Master going, maybe you really just need a way to stop the game, not lose the game after you activate the Forge Master. Sometimes just being able to go for like a Wormcoil Engine or a Spine of Isha isn't enough, you know? So I kind of like the Platinum Imperium as a one-of bullet target for Forge Master. But beyond that, he doesn't really have that much to bring in against Goblins.
Let me take a look over here at Max's sideboard really quick. Of course, you are going to be looking for artifact removal to kind of break up what Cleveland is doing. You do see 2 copies of Crows and Grip. You find 3 copies of Pyrokinesis, 3 Relic of Progenitus, an Angel of Despair, 3 Mindbreak Traps, and 3 Thalia Garden of Thraben. Thalia, a card that can kind of mess with the mana here from Cleveland's deck, but I think it's just a little bit too slow to get online, especially on the draw. Metalworker pumping out all of this mana. You know, if he was on the play, I think it'd be a little bit more reasonable, but even if he was on the play, I don't think it would be great.
Yeah, again, Cleveland does have ways to sort of jump the curve with his mana, so Thalia is not going to be ideal in this matchup, but maybe he just wants to bring it in because he does have cards like Sharpshooter, which he probably doesn't want after board. But beyond that, yeah, I don't know.
You know, More Marshall also not great here.
Yeah, I could see cutting some of those numbers, but again, I don't think he wants to dilute his deck of Goblins that much. Thalia, probably not where you want to be on the draw. Definitely like the 2 Crows and Grips, but beyond that, maybe he's just okay with trying to be as aggressive as he can by going turn 1 Lackey, you know, turn 1 Aether Vial, again, really good with some of his cards, so not really sure you want to be in Thalia, especially on the draw.
The only other card I kind of like in the sideboard is Pyrokinesis because it does give him a way, and a free way, to be able to interact with a Metalworker. That does come down early. Also lets him kill Goblin Welder. If both of those are in play, he can kind of fire off those, kill his Lodestone Golem as well. He does have to 2-for-1 himself to be able to do that, but Ringleader can make up that card advantage, and it does just give him a unique angle of attack that he wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, I like Pyrokinesis a lot more than Thalia because you have to figure if you're maxed, the only way I'm going to lose is if I let a Metalworker get unchecked.
Yep.
Again, Grim Monolith is a way of Cleveland really getting a lot of mana into play quickly, but you know, you have 2 Crows and Grips. You don't have a lot of ways to interact with Grim Monolith. You do have more ways to interact with Metalworker. So why not just hedge my bets, bring in Pyrokinesis, bring in 2 other ways to deal with cards like Grim Monolith or perhaps a high-end card like Caldotha Forge Master, and sort of like keep him off his mana. You have Wasteland, you have Rashad Import. Now with Pyrokinesis, you can make sure that a Goblin Welder or a Metalworker never get out of hand.
So I think those are the options here for Max and for Rhoades for this particular matchup. So we'll see what's going to happen here. As you do see, Rhoades is going to be on the play here this game, down a game to the Goblin deck. See if he can find a better hand to cobble together, as he did have to begin with a mulligan to 5 to start the match.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate for Cleveland that he has to play the fair deck, so quote unquote, that he has to play against is Goblins that does have 4 copies of Incinerator, which are a great answer to Metalworker and Goblin Welder, which are some of the cheap ways that Cleveland has to sort of make the game go really well for him early on. again, Grim Monolith is a great card, but he only has 4 copies of that. Beyond that, he really doesn't have that much mana acceleration. He's kind of really relying on Goblin Welder or Metalworker surviving.
Yeah. And, you know, he probably has spent most of the day cheating some large artifacts into play via Goblin Welder plus Faithless Looting.
Yes.
You know, getting him into play that way. So we'll see if he's able to do that this game, as he did cast a Faithless Looting and did run into a Goblin Welder, but wasn't able to really do what was necessary to get those into play.
And I think if Cleveland can get a draw where it's like turn 1 Goblin Welder, turn 2 Metalworker, there could be a situation where he just has, Max just doesn't have enough removal. He might just have 1 Incinerator. Even if he has an Incinerator, he can't deal with both those creatures. And if Welder or Metalworker are even able to get online once, it might be good enough for Cleveland to sneak in a big threat that'll allow him to win the game. He really doesn't need them to activate multiple times. He really just usually needs them to activate once sometimes. With a card like Faithless Looting, he can sneak something like a Forge Master or even a Steel Hellkite or a Wormcoil Engine and sneak that into play with the Welder. So it looks like Cleveland has to mulligan again, unfortunately. Max is okay with his 7. So not the best start for Cleveland in either of these games.
No, not at all. Let's see, again, he's made it through 9 rounds, and he's having certainly a lot of trouble getting through his 10th one.
Yeah, and again, his deck doesn't really mulligan that great.
No.
Particularly against a deck like Max that has a lot of removal for cards like Metalworker and Welder. Not really an ideal scenario for Cleveland, but, you know, let's see what happens. His deck can do some abusive things, and if he draws a Grim Monolith, I think he's actually in a reasonable shape. So we got a triple pile.
He does have hands that he can undo mulligans with pretty well. That's the kind of nice thing for him. You know, he can keep maybe an Ancient Tomb in a Grim Monolith hand and then cross his fingers and hope to get there.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, like, if he goes turn 1 Goblin Welder and Tietze doesn't have a Pyrokinesis, he could just go Great Furnace, Faithless Looting, discard a Wormcoil Engine, get it into play, and suddenly he's got turn 2 6/6 lifelink Death Touch creature. So there are sneaky things that he can do early on, but again, it's off of 6 cards, it's going to be tough.
So you see him take a look at his opening hand, and he shrugs and he says, "Man, this sucks. I got to go down to 5 cards." So
Max playing it cool, not pumping the fist, but it's gonna be a tough road for Cleveland. He's gonna have to get a pretty good start here. Again, turn 1 Lackey from Max, turn 1 Aether Vial. Either scenario's pretty rough to deal with, but you know, I think Cleveland still has outs. You know, Great Furnace, Faithless Looting, Welder, anything can happen.
Yep.
And we don't know that Max brought in the Pyrokinesis. We don't. No. So
we saw Max reach for the sideboard, but we don't know what he reached for.
Yeah. So turn 1 Goblin Welder, turn 2 Metalworker. Maybe it'll get there, you know?
Anything can happen. Anything is possible.
Anything can happen. And the thing is, even a turn 2 Metalworker doesn't necessarily die to a Gem Palm Incinerator if Max doesn't have enough goblins in play. You know? He really needs to go turn 1 Lackey to realistically get enough goblins to play on the draw.
Yeah.
Because Metalworkers are 1/2, so just having 1 goblin is not going to do it.
All right, so another 5 cards here for Cleveland.
Cleveland looks a little demoralized, but you know,
now, wouldn't you be?
I'd be a little demoralized, but you know, his deck's capable of doing some incredible things. You know, let's see if he can get there. We've seen better. We've seen worse mulligans survive. We saw Mulligan to 2 win at one of these opens before.
Yeah, that's true. As we do see an Ancient Tomb here, and Cleveland does just pass the turn back, so no Monolith for him right now. We can't really get a good look at what his hand is, as we're going to see Wasteland take care of that.
So Max says, I don't care. I'm not going to mess around.
Oh, Great Furnace the draw. And he does have a Metalworker in his hand. Not sure what else he has hiding over there, but he does just pass the turn back. Max does draw a Taiga for the turn, and he does have a Goblin Lackey along with a Aether Vial.
And it looks like there is the Pyrokinesis, so he did go for that strategy.
He's going to start off here with a Scalding Tarn. Going to sacrifice that. We'll see. He's going to go for a basic. Maybe search out that plateau. I think he does have the Taiga in his hand already.
Yes, he has a Taiga already. Now he'll have access to all the colors of mana he needs. Not sure if he brought it in the Thalia, but he'll have access to it if he does draw one. So it's going to be a tough situation for Cleveland. Even if he does draw another doubling like a City of Traders or Ancient Tombs for his Metalworker, Max does in fact have an answer for it in Pyrokinesis.
So Max is going to play an Aether Vial and pass the turn back here. If not playing the Goblin Lackey probably signifies that he doesn't have, a very good hand. to hit. You know, if he does hit with the lackey, nothing great to put into play.
Is that a Blightsteel Colossus?
That is
a Blightsteel Colossus Forge Master. It looks like a Lodestone Golem.
Yep.
So on one land, Cleveland's hand, I believe the combined casting cost is 37.
Yeah.
So it is going to be difficult. Oh, there's a Goblin Welder.
All right.
But like we said, we know that Max not only has a Pyrokinesis, but he also has a Sting Scourger.
Yep.
So if he wants to just bounce it, kill it, he has plenty of options here. Be surprised if Max actually pays the upkeep here. Don't really need it.
See him reaching
like
for the die here. He's going to put that up to 2.
Is he going to pay 2? Nah, it looks like he's going to let it die. Don't really need to pay the upkeep there. Like you said, War Marshal's not really effective in this matchup. So
maybe he just doesn't have a lackey in hand. Maybe I misread his hand here. As if he had a lackey, I think he would have allowed it in the play.
Yeah.
It looks like it's an old school Goblin Matron artwork, which kind of caught me by surprise there.
Yeah, it looks like Sting Scourger, Ringleader, Pyrokinesis. There's a Matron in there as well. Doesn't look like there's a lackey. So one of the tokens comes over, swings for 1. Now, how are we going to deal with this Goblin Welder on Cleveland's side of the board? Looks like a Matron might come down here.
So I think he has an old school and a new school Matron in his hand. I think that's what's going on. A new school being Urza Saga, which is not so new, but the newer of them.
Hey, come on, Cedric. You should know your goblins.
Yeah, look, man, I only play with the Saga Matrons. I don't play with the old ones. I'm not made of money.
So Goblin Matron searches up a Gem Palm Incinerator. Not going to be able to cycle it this turn, but again, we know he has a Sting Scourger. He also has a Pyrokinesis, so he has plenty of ways to deal with that Goblin Welder.
And it's okay. So he is going to take the Incinerator here.
Mm-hmm. So interesting. Max doesn't actually have to deal with the Welder right now. He could wait to see if maybe Cleveland thinks, okay, he didn't kill my Welder, now I'll cast Faithless Looting, and then in response to the Faithless Looting.
Yep.
Because again, Cleveland doesn't have any artifacts in his graveyard.
And you do see a draw here. Looks like a Worm Coil Engine is the card that he did draw for this turn, and he does just pass the turn back yet again. So let's see if Tietze does have a 2 to Violent to play. He does not. That's going to tick up to 3. And we're going to see another Pyrokinesis drawn.
Yeah, I think he really wants to save that Sting Scourger for a Worm Coil Engine on the off chance that somehow that we see like a City of Traders, Grim Monolith, Voltaic Key, but
nothing to be worried about right now. No reason to bounce. The only time we're going to see that Sting Scourger bounce that Welder is if it's going to be for a lethal attack, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. And now he has access to Gem Palm Incinerator, so really he doesn't have anything to worry about.
So we see an attack for 3 here by the 2 Goblin tokens and the Matron. Going to put Cleveland down to 16. See Tietze Violin.
Another Matron, the old school Matron that tricked you, perhaps?
I hope I'm right. Come on. Is it an old school Matron? It is. All right, so it's the one from, I think it's from
Arena?
Yeah, from Portal.
Yeah, Portal, okay.
Portal, there it is. He's mixing up the artwork on the Matron. He's trying to purposely confuse me.
I think that was actually his intent.
Yes, without question. You see him search for a Goblin Pile Driver. There's new art on that one too, but he sticks with the old school.
So if he plays this, Pile Driver is going to be threatening lethal next turn. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 12, 13.
So he's almost
Pyrokinesis as well.
Cannot go upstairs.
Cannot go upstairs? Okay.
Just kills creatures. That card would be too good if it could go upstairs.
So looks like Cleveland, did he draw another 10-drop creature, or?
So he does just pass the turn back. I think his draw was a Mox Opal, yeah. He doesn't want to unveil that when he can't actually tap it for mana.
Well, Max has to be careful because how many cards are in Cleveland's hand? Is he going to be discarding next turn? Oh, well, might not matter.
Well, here's a Ringleader. Going to turn over another Ringleader. Going to turn over a Goblin Pile Driver. Also going to be turning over that Aether Vial on the land, which is a Wasteland. So those will go down there. These will go to Max's hand.
Yeah, and I believe this is lethal now.
Yeah, the Incinerator here, or if he just wants to Pyrokinesis for free to clear this up.
Probably just keep his mana free. No reason not to. You have plenty of cards.
And he's just going to incinerate this. Draw a card. Going to take care of that. He draws into a Goblin Lackey. We'll see all these creatures come across here. We'll see Pile Driver's ability 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So it's going to be 11, 12, 13, 14, 15,
17.
16. That's 17. Yep. That is Lethal. There's a handshake. Max Tietze, 2-0 over Cleveland Rhoades. And you even see Max and Cleveland Bull shrugging their shoulders, just saying, really didn't play games there.
Yeah, it wasn't really a good match.
Yeah.
Cleveland at the mulligan to 5 both games, never really got anything going. Max had really good draws both games, perfect for this matchup. Even if Cleveland was able to keep both of his openers, not sure how much of a fight he could have really put up against some of the Max's draws, but you know, sometimes that happens. That's the issue with Bud sometimes, is that